You have seen it 1,000 times: the mushroom cloud, the white flash, the slow rolling shockwave in the movie trailer. It has been shown so often that the most destructive thing human beings ever built has started to look almost cartoonish, like a special effect you have grown numb to. But the real answer to what it does to you is far stranger than any film has shown. A nuclear detonation is not one event, it is a sequence of separate events, each arriving at a different speed, each doing something completely different to a human body. And they arrive in an order almost nobody gets right. It begins with light, not fire, not sound, light. When the weapon detonates, the first thing to leave it is a flash brighter than the sun, and light is the fastest thing in the universe, so it reaches you before anything else can. Miles away, before you have heard a single sound, the sky simply turns white. If you were looking toward it, that light could burn the back of your eye or blind you for minutes. At Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there were many cases of this temporary blindness. The flash arrives in silence because sound is slow and light is not. Your body has not even begun to understand that anything is wrong. Then comes the heat. Around a third of the explosion's energy is released as thermal radiation, heat carried on that same light at the speed of light. Picture the most intense sunburn imaginable, delivered not over a day at the beach, but in a 2-second flash from something as bright as the sun hanging over the rooftops. Close to the center, it sets wood and cloth and hair alight in an instant. Further out, it causes flash burns on any skin facing the blast. There is a haunting detail in the records from Japan. The heat was so sudden that it burned the patterns of people's dark clothing onto their skin because dark fabric absorbed the light and pale fabric reflected it. The burn was a photograph of what they had been wearing. And still, the explosion itself has not reached you, only its light and its heat. Why not? Because the blast wave is slow, at least compared to light. The explosion compresses the air into a wall of pressure that races outward, but it travels at the speed of sound, and it keeps slowing as it goes. So there is a strange, awful gap. You see the flash, you feel the heat, and then a second or two later, the air arrives to knock the world down. And when it hits, it does something you would not expect. Your body is remarkably good at surviving pressure. A human being can withstand a startling amount of the pure squeeze of a blast wave. So, what actually kills you? The world turned into shrapnel. That is what the blast wave truly does. It takes every window for miles and turns the glass into thousands of blades moving faster than a bullet. It collapses the building around you and hurls your body into whatever is behind you. The same grim finding appears again and again in the studies. People are surprisingly resistant to the pressure itself and terribly vulnerable to everything the pressure sets in motion. You are not crushed by the air, you are struck by the world. If you have survived the light, the heat, and the wave, you might believe the danger has passed. It has not, because the fourth thing is invisible, and it is patient. At the instant of detonation, the weapon releases a burst of ionizing radiation, energy powerful enough to tear apart the atoms and molecules inside your cells. You cannot see it, feel it, or hear it. If you take a heavy dose, it begins quietly unspooling the machinery of your body from the inside. This is acute radiation syndrome, once simply called radiation sickness, and its timing has a cruelty that is hard to forget. Someone exposed to a serious dose may feel violently ill within hours, and then, strangely, feel better. The nausea fades. They can walk and talk and hope. Doctors who studied the aftermath gave this stage a chilling name: the walking ghost phase, because during those calm days, the radiation has already destroyed the body's ability to repair and defend itself, and beneath the surface, the person is already dying. The recovery is not real. It is the eye of the storm. Days later, the true collapse arrives. So, how does anyone know all of this second by second? It is known because it happened. In August 1945, Hiroshima and Nagasaki became the only places on Earth where nuclear weapons were ever used against people. Everything you have just heard was learned from the bodies and testimony of those who were there. Researchers began the Lifespan Study, run by what became the Radiation Effects Research Foundation, following roughly 120,000 survivors for the rest of their lives. The pathologist Avril Lebo documented the injuries in unflinching detail, and the physicists Samuel Gladstone and Philip Dolan gathered the effects into a single reference. None of that knowledge came cheaply. Every line of it was paid for by a real person, and it is worth staying with one of them. His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He was a 29-year-old engineer, and on the morning of August 6th, 1945, he was about 3 kilometers from the center of the Hiroshima explosion. He survived it. Burned and half deaf, he made his way home, back to his own city. His city was Nagasaki. 3 days later, as he stood in an office describing to his disbelieving boss the impossible light he had seen, the same light filled the windows around him. He survived that one too. He is the only person Japan has ever officially recognized as a survivor of both bombings. He lived to 93 and spent his last years telling his story, not for sympathy, but as a warning so the young would understand exactly what these weapons do to a human being. Because that is the thing the mushroom cloud never shows you. The weapons that exist now are many times more powerful than the ones that fell in 1945. But the point was never the size of the cloud. The point is the fraction of a second on the ground beneath it, the precise and terrible order of light, then heat, then pressure, then the silence that keeps killing after everything has gone still. In the 80 years since, these weapons have never again been used in war. That is not an accident. It is, in part, because the survivors refused to let anyone look away. So you have seen it 1,000 times. The mushroom cloud rising silent, almost beautiful from a safe distance. But now you know the cloud was never the story. The story was always underneath it, on the ground, in a handful of seconds, in a single human body, and in the people who lived to make sure you would understand.